This is my honest reaction to the new DC slate and James Gunn's announcement yesterday. I haven't looked at the slate yet. I am going to literally look at it first time while I'm on video with you. This video will not be massively edited, if at all, and, well, I just want to give you my honest reaction to this. So, welcome to SciTrek, your sci-fi TV and movie channel. So I'm not joking. I haven't seen this at all. I'm literally going to look at this for the first time now. So I'm on a website. Where did I go? Something called Polygon. This is the first one I found that was actually like listed rather than a big long story, and then you have to figure it out. So anyway, the new DCE movies. Right, this is the one that's probably the most interesting for most people, is the Superman Legacy project. So this is going to be looking at before Man of Steel. Now, this is my first here because that with the DC and James Gunn, they seem to be doing a bit of a hybrid hard reboot. Now, I have seen the interview a little bit where James Gunn is talking about how the DC's been a bit of a mess over the last 15 years or so. It's been all over the bloody place with Arrowverse and everything else. And I know that the new Batman, the Patterson version of Batman, is going to be sort of a DC extra thing, and so is sort of like the Superman on the CW, so Superman and Lois. So they seem to be trying to organize the DC now into very much the DC universe, and anything that's sort of outside of that, like the Joker, the Joaquin Phoenix thing, will be separate, but it'll be very much distinctly tagged as separate. So I kind of understand that, and they're trying to. I think that is important though, because it's got to bring us into the universe, isn't it? You've got to kind of almost feel like it's real. It's got to be organized, or you kind of lose some of the reality to it. But anyway, so yeah, no Henry Cavill. Legacy will follow Kal-El as he reconciles his extraterrestrial origins with his human family and upbringing. So he's going to be a young Superman. So hey, let's see. I mean, over 10, 15 years, it might be actually quite interesting to see how Superman does reconcile that. But we kind of got to see that in Smallville. That was the kind of point of Smallville. So it's going to be basically Smallville Light, as far as I'm concerned, or Smallville the movie. The Authority. Oh, the Authority is quite cool. I do know this comic book. So yeah, this is a bit like Marvel. There's a lot of equivalence between DC and Marvel. This is a bit like that movie Marvel did last year, which was rubbish. Anyway, I can't even remember what it's called. It's so bad. It just sucked my mind and left my brain. Jack Hawksmoor, is physically bonded to cities. That was a strange storyline. So yeah, this superhero is actually like gets his power from cities. Anyway, it's an interesting storyline. I do remember the comics vaguely. That must tie into a bigger storyline though. I do vaguely think that James Gunn has talked about there being a big overarching storyline for this first phase, Monsters and Heroes or something, whatever it's called. So okay, right, The Brave and the Bold, Silver Age DC Comics. Is this the one where Robin is actually Batman's son? It is. So right, okay. So Batman is going to be Batman's actually. So Robin is actually Batman's son, and if I remember correctly from the comics, it's a troubled relationship. Robin was brought up by somebody else. He didn't know he was Batman's son until he was like 10 or 11 or something, and then he's like an assassin or something. He's a troubled kid anyway, and then Batman and this whole story about that troubled relationship. So this is going to be the Batman family that we've heard so much about, and we're going to see Batgirl and stuff again, I imagine. So all right, this is really it's quite a middle-aged sort of Batman and a young Robin. So look, my first instinct on that is it hasn't worked before. It's going to have to require a different take on Batman. Look, any story can be done well. I always think like Ant-Man from the Marvel series. When that came out, I thought this is going to be stupid. It's Ant-Man. It's a stupid name. It's a stupid superhero. It's not going to make a very good film. but Marvel did a good job with it because they sort of took on board and they had a little bit of tongue in cheek where it was necessary, but then they took it seriously enough. So the Robin character kind of needs that a little bit. It needs to be taken seriously, but also needs a little bit of tongue in cheek. So let's see. Supergirl. Oh, fuck's sake. Doing Supergirl. Based on Tom King's comic book series. Okay, well, that was Supergirl was brought up on. She wasn't brought up on Earth, was she? And yeah, she's a slightly more troubled character, if I remember right. So let's see. Faye Dunaway is a nemesis. Okay. Helen Slater is going to be starring as a thing. Okay. Hey, let's see. Swamp Thing. You've got to be kidding me. They can't do a Swamp Thing. That's a movie as well. That's not a TV series. They're doing a movie of the Swamp Thing. Right. It looks like they're going to go dark with that then. So that's going to be like a horror movie. Oh, yeah. Wes Craven did the first one. So that's a comic book that really is limited. They're trying to do this in a TV series not long ago, actually. I think it was on the CW, I'm not sure, but it was rubbish. Every time they've tried to do that, it's been rubbish. So again, they're going to have to do that very, very cleverly. DCU TV shows. Creature Commandos. I think that's the cartoon, isn't it? I think that's going to be a cartoon. In it, Amanda Waller forms a super team with monstrous prisoners. So it's another take on Suicide Squad. And then they are doing a Waller TV series as well. So but that's live action, I believe. So I believe Creature Commandos is going to be a cartoon. That's what I was told by sources a couple of weeks ago, that at least one of these big projects would be a cartoon. It would be this Creature Commandos thing. I think James Gunn's writing that himself, if I remember right. Waller. Oh yeah, this is the one thing that apparently the Peacemaker season 2 is being delayed. Waller's going to be done first, and some of the Peacemaker characters will be in it. Hopefully, Peacemaker himself, because that would be awesome. And yeah, that would be very cool. I'd be okay with that Waller TV series. I think the actress that plays Waller is just a phenomenal actress. So if they do that right, and again, I assume that's going to be something that's going to be tagged in with whatever the big story arc is. So Booster Gold. Right now, this Booster Gold is a character that's appeared in DC a few times. Now, he's actually appeared in the TV series once or twice. I can't remember if it was Arrow or The Flash they appeared in, but if you've got one of the early seasons of that. And so he's from the future, and he's a bit of a loser, but he uses future technology, and then he's come back into the past to become a superhero, but he's a complete idiot. So I'm assuming that's going to be a slightly tongue-in-cheek, a bit like Peacemaker, a lot more humor involved in that series. So let's see how that works. That could be good. Look, I hated Suicide Squad, the second one in particular, but then Peacemaker came off that, and I loved Peacemaker. It just tickled my stupid bone in my brain, you know. And I shouldn't have liked it because it's inane, stupid humor, but I just adored it. Lanterns, okay, a TV series of Lanterns. So that's going to be based on Earth then. It's Hal Jordan and John Stewart. Okay, great. Two of the big things. So that'll be Precinct Terror, I think it's called. So the Earth Space Precinct. Unraveling a Dark Mystery. Right now, I heard this was going to be like a buddy cop show, basically. So if that's still the plan, then that's interesting. And then I imagine again that will bleed into whatever this big story over an arcing story is. The Thanos of this story, if you like. Paradise Lost. Is that the Wonder Woman show? Yeah, so that's the Wonder Woman show, and that's, I imagine. Now, he has said, James Gunn has said that Gal Gadot can still appear in Wonder Woman as Wonder Woman, but this is a reboot. It feels like, because this is back on her, the island where she grew up and everything. This calls it a Game of Thrones style show. The drama focuses on the genesis and political intrigue of an island of all women. I'm not making any. I'm not touching that with a barge pole. I am making no jokes about that. But very Game of Thronesy. Okay, and that's it. So that is the plan initially. I have heard that there are other projects in development as well as this. So let's see what James Gunn has other plans. But that is the initial, that's the plan so far. So what do I initially think of that? I don't like the Superman thing. I think Henry Cavill is Superman. I think if you're going to allow things like the Flash and that character, Ezra, to continue to be the Flash, and Aquaman as well. And apparently, James Gunn has said that there's the potential for these characters to stay in the DC. That these next couple of movies that are coming out are DC. So there'll be Blue Beetle as well, which fair as a character we haven't seen yet. But Aquaman and the Flash, and they're going to be staying in the DC. But Henry Cavill isn't, and we're going to be having a new Superman. So they are going to be definitely picking and choosing what is staying canon or what is going to still be part of DC, and they're going to just ignore the rest. So again, Batman is Ben Affleck. They're ignoring that. They're going to forget that happened. So they're going to forget that sort of like everything in the Snyderverse happened. They're picking and choosing. They're cherry picking. It seems to me that they've got their hands tied a little bit because they've got these 4 big movies coming out, which are part of the old DC, and now they've got these new plans. So they're going to allow them to stay. But what they're saying is basically from today that this is the DC. So Aquaman, blah, blah, blah. Everything else that's happened from yesterday back is... So we have a new DC. It's under James Gunn. What do I think of James Gunn? Very, very briefly. I thought what he did with Guardians of the Galaxy was brilliant. The first one in particular, not so much the second one, and definitely not the Christmas special. We'll see what he does in the third one. But what he did with Suicide Squad was awful. But then he pulled out Peacemaker, which was brilliant. So James Gunn is one of those creators that I think if he's given the opportunity to do something, he can do something brilliant. But he does need somebody just to rein him in. And maybe that's that Safran guy. Maybe that he's there just to sort of like, look, you're the creative guy, but I am gonna fence you in a little bit. I am gonna just pull you back when you go too far. I think really creative people need that. I always thought Tim Burton was one of those that needs that when he goes too far. Like, the first Batman movie was brilliant. The second Batman movie was too much Tim Burton, and it showed. Taika Waititi is very similar to that. The first Ragnarok, brilliant movie. It's probably my favorite Marvel film. The Love and Thunder is too much Taika, and he needed somebody to rein him in. So I think James Gunn is a little bit like that. I think he needs somebody to rein him in. So let's see what happens. But hey, I think there are really good and interesting parts of that roster. I think there are things I'm a bit concerned about. But as I say, regardless of how bad a story feels on the outset, it really depends on how that story is told. So let's fingers crossed and see what they can do with it. If you are new to the channel, please like, subscribe, hit the bell notification, it really helps us out. And if you want to become a fully fledged SciTrekker, consider hitting the join button. Also, check the description. There are links to our 9 Chevrons website, which is our Stargate website. There are links to our Facebook group, which I would love to come and join, Twitter, and the merchandise page. So please go and check out those links. As always, please stay safe, and I'll see you next time.